and so forth. So this is really a briefing. All that said, I just want to say that, oh, Maggie's joining us. This is good, good, good. Let's let her get set up. Hi, Maggie. Maggie, you're on mute, so I'm going to assume at this point, here we go.
I had trouble getting into here today.
Well, I'm glad you fought through the technological barriers. Okay, Maggie, I was just informally discussing here that this is just a briefing today because we are not meeting in person. So it's just providing information. Because it's broadcast live, we won't be discussing numbers or anything like that, but we can provide some details in a follow-up. So kind of our landscape has changed in about the last 9 minutes or so. So Jonathan just showed up at my office a few minutes ago. We were just informed that the funds have been released for detailed design. So finally, 6 months later, yep, I guess that's just the way it goes. So I'm going to let Jonathan kind of walk through the procedure. I'll just basically say that once we're done with this meeting, we're going to put heads together and just kind of go through our checklist. The first step being the release of the RFP. We'll be working closely with John Carroll University. As you all know, we've signed an MOU with them to be the construction manager for the project. So we'll get things rolling once this briefing is through. So Jonathan, what's upcoming? I know we haven't even had a chance to talk about it, but I guess we've talked about it a lot over the last 6 months.
That's right. No, so all the pieces are in place to go ahead and put out for the RFP for the architect. So we'll be spending the next 30 days working. It'll go out, and then we'll spend the next 30 days reviewing and evaluating the prospects coming through. Just as a quick reminder, there's people that have been on the project prior to now that I don't think that they know too much to not be considered, but now the project is funded on the state side and we have the money. So just keep in mind not to release any numbers as far as project totals. We want to keep all the bidding fair. We want to keep, we want to do our due diligence with taxpayer money. So we want to be sure that we don't release any information that could potentially disrupt the project, or somebody could FOIA request information as far as the AE firm not being selected. Somebody had insider information. So that hasn't happened to my knowledge and should not happen. And I just wanted to kindly remind everybody moving forward. Yes, so Joe mentioned JMU. So James Madison University is going to head up the project. This is the project manager on our side and work with us, Department of Planning and Budget, Department of Engineering and Building, and the AE firm we select to make sure this project moves along as smoothly as possible. Previously, in earlier discussions, we talked about the preliminary design and schematic phases having to take roughly 18 months to a year. Working with DPB, we look forward to putting in a request for the full project funding in October of this year. So calendar year 2022, somewhere around the 1st to the 30th of October, we should be looking to put in for the full capital funding to go to the capital pool July 1st, calendar year 2023. We're excited about that. There's a whole lot of work ahead of us. Hope everybody's excited to look through proposals. We'll work to have digital copies of those. Hopefully we won't have to print too many copies, but we'll work on centralizing that to the selection committee. And it's a lot of dotting I's and crossing T's going forward.
All right, good. So what I intend to do, and Greg, if you've got any input on this, I would love to hear it. But as we've done in the past with architects and design firms and so forth, we put out the RFP and we bring, say, 3 firms in for in-person interviews. And we've done that at the Office of Economic Development in Waynesboro. Lots of good reasons for that. Central location, giving people a chance to see the site firsthand and so forth. So I encourage everyone to participate in that as much as you can. Do we have any questions from committee members? I know this is kind of the bombshell being dropped here, but I guess we've been waiting for it for a while.
Good bombshell. So
Yes.
refresh my memory, how long does the RFP need to remain live before we start reviewing and selecting?
It's roughly 45 days, and then there's another 10-day award period, and so. But we'll rush it along as quickly as possible within the bounds that we're held to by the state.
So we're looking at March 1st-ish, latter part of February for in-person interviews, March 1st-ish. Okay.
Capital-ish.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, that looks like our time frame, and hopefully we can get through that part pretty quickly. There are still the hoops to jump through in terms of once we select a firm, then that has to be announced for X number of days and so forth. So we'll go through all those procedures, and then we're going to inform the firm that we end up working with that we would intend to work through the very first phase of detailed design, the schematic design as it's called, very quickly. And as I've mentioned in the past, the fact that we've got a pretty complete or at least advanced pre-plan is going to be an advantage for us. Carol.
Would you just remind me in terms of advertising this? We go through the state to advertise this, correct? And the firms that are applying are those that already have approval to do business with the state. So we don't have to mess with any of that, trying to figure that out.
So the RFP will go on EVA, but it will be firms from all over or would be allowed to bid as long as they're in the EVA system. So this potentially we could get firms out of Maryland, DC. We would strategize to select a firm which knows Virginia the best. So, and just as strict as I'm being as far as the FOIA requests go, we can acknowledge that the project is out there for people to apply. So if, just let them know that, we are moving forward with RFP. If you're interested in bidding on, not bidding on the process, but being part of it, feel free to look on EVA and apply.
Yeah, so Jonathan, just to again refresh memories here, these folks are going to be putting in proposals, answering the RFP. They do not provide an amount that they're willing to work for at that point. Basically, we would narrow it down to the 3 firms, interview them. Then with the 1 firm, we have to go through negotiations. So they would provide a cost estimate, and then before we sign anything, we can make a counter offer and so forth and go through that process.
Correct, and the state provides guidelines as far as what is reasonable for AE architects, CAD artists. And they should outline that to us once we select them. The process, we won't get a price at first because it's open to all, so nobody wants to disclose their pricing until they confirm that they're on the project.
Right. All right, so there you have it. The ball's going to get rolling here pretty fast, pretty soon. Any other questions or comments from the group?
Just real quick, Jonathan, what are we calling this? If I tell someone to go to EVA, what am I telling them to look for?
It should be under the Virginia Museum of Natural History Satellite Project, Waynesboro. Yeah, it should mirror the language in the budget bill.
Okay.
Anybody else? Excuse me,
Just
I'm
that
kind of
we-
losing my voice today.
Just that we dodged a bullet, because remember they were going to change the EVA system, right? And they've now extended that. So that's a very good thing, right? We're still working with the old EVA system.
Yeah,
Yes.
familiarity is going to be a benefit to us.
That's turned into a bit of a nightmare as far as not knowing when we're going to have to switch over, but all the documentation will be in and we will handle that accordingly, and it shouldn't cause any headaches, but it'll be some fun getting that transition handled.
Excellent. Well, I'll follow this up with an email out to the full board, as well as kind of the key members of the VMNH Foundation, and I'll make sure the entire membership of the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee is included in it on that. So yeah, time to get to work, I suppose. Speaking of work, I just want to remind everyone as well that As far as board members, Mark and Carol, I know Tom's not here, but we still need to, we have time to do this. Just for formality's sake, we need to make sure we have a committee chair assigned by Jennifer Burnett. So I can work with you outside today's meeting to make sure that we have that taken care of at the next board meeting. All right, so that kind of really, all this dives into part 3 of today's agenda. I'll skip part A, as that has entirely, that landscape has changed in terms of detailed design funds information. We know where we stand now, which is good. Part B, new donation. It's very encouraging. We have a longtime research associate of the museum who provided a very nice donation to us. We're going to invite him as part of the design team for the exhibits, not simply because he provided the donation, but this particular person is well familiar, not with just Virginia geology in general, but in particular the Shenandoah Valley and Blue Ridge. So he'll be a great asset. He has worked with us in a variety of capacities over decades. So I was just encouraging people are now starting to get excited about that. So leading up to part C, and I know Tammy's not here, and I think she can be a real asset for us in this, but so can Len and some of our CCR colleagues and members of this committee as well. I'd like to sit down in the near future when the appropriate people are available and work to update the major donor prospects list and to identify corporate opportunities as well. So I'd like everyone to maybe kind of put their thoughts into this so everyone can participate, but like I said, I'll probably sit down with a few key people and just get that ball rolling, and we'll share that, and over the next couple of months begin to refine that, because as we begin to work and produce product, that's going to be a time that we can really begin to excite people, because the drawings, like the 3-dimensional drawings that show the 2 wings, that 3-dimensional view that we've been using a lot in presentations, that's going to be modified. It should be more refined, more real. And we'll certainly be steps closer to breaking ground. So that will be an important time to really rally our major donor base. Related to that, as you might recall, we were looking to hire a staffer located in Waynesboro to serve a number of purposes. In fact, this might be an evolving position. That is someone who can help with logistics, maybe some donor management and some PR marketing strategies on the ground there in Waynesboro. We had our eyes on someone who was interested in part-time work at the end of last year. Unfortunately, that fell through. That person decided that it just wasn't the time for them to jump into this. So we still have that open, and I'm not interested in rushing this process. But again, I would like this group to begin to put thoughts on, do we have people in the community? I'd like to research the community, get to know people who may be interested in this before we put out a general job announcement. Faye?
Will that position be full-time?
It was originally budgeted as full-time. The person we're looking at last year specifically requested part-time, and because of their experience and background, we thought, hey, that would work. So we're flexible at this point, Faye. If there's someone who's interested in part-time work, we're happy to go that route. But if someone needs a full-time position with benefits, it's something that we budgeted for.
Well, I do have someone in mind who I think would be just terrific. But she has a consulting firm, but she's had some pretty high-powered positions, and she's really well connected.
Nice.
In a lot of ways in terms of economic development. I bet you Greg knows her. I might touch base with you, Greg, to see what you think. So yeah, if there's some flexibility there, she just had her second child, but I know she's intending to, go back to work and will be working. So I'll keep that in mind. Is there a job description for that now?
Yes, I'll send it to you and Greg, and if anybody else would like, well, I'll just send it to the whole committee.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Can I go back one step, one subject?
Yes.
Not looking for details now, but I think at some point back to the major donations, you went through and identified dollar amounts with names, like a hall donor is worth this much money and a naming of the building is worth this much money. That kind of work's already been done. Is that what I remember?
We have some general ideas.
Okay.
So, that's going to require a lot of revision because there's so much that can change between now and what the final design is. So, but we can provide, large scale looks at naming opportunities. Smaller scale things such as particular cases, particular exhibit halls and so forth be a little difficult to nail down right now. But we can certainly interest people because we have a number of those namings existing here. And so we can use those as examples as what people might be interested in participating in.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, anything else regarding, well, let me just say this bullet number we're on, number 3, really is also the update on the General Assembly. Right now, the Board of Trustees will be meeting, if I'm not mistaken, we're looking at February 15th and 16th. It's in the middle of the week, but they're going to hold their board meeting in Richmond. And at the same time, too, they will have a General Assembly presence. So we're going to schedule that here upcoming. And what we've done in the past is we basically format leave-behinds about the museum. We customize them for each legislator, for the most part anyway, at least for those legislators whose districts we've done work in specifically. So that's something that we've left behind. But we actually have several things that we need to advocate for this year. So this will be the priority, the Waynesboro campus. So we'll be updating key legislators on our progress. So we won't have anything new to show them in February, of course, but we can certainly tell them that we're on our way to next steps. Just incidentally, there's a couple of other things that we have in the governor's budget bill right now, which of course still has to go through the machinations of the next couple of months. But we have funds to update one of our galleries into an early childhood gallery here on Starling Avenue. That would also include a full-time educator as a kind of facility manager. Since we're updating the power grid and kind of the powerhouse of the Starling Avenue facility and installing solar this year, we also have a request in, and it's again in governor's budget for an HVAC specialist that can work with the new technology being installed. And Jonathan, I know there's what am I missing?
Hayden's lab.
That's right.
Heritage and Cultural, the
Cultural
Center.
Heritage Monitoring Lab.
Yes.
So we have funds currently in the budget to hire a full-time technician in support of that work. So far so good, but of course there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the next couple of months, as you're all aware of. So we will be advocating for those, and we've reached out to our local legislators, and now that we have the detailed design funds, we'll need to reach out to Delegate Avoli and Senator Hanger to thank them for their help in getting us to this point. So Faye and Greg, maybe I can work with you offline, and we'll just come up with a mechanism for that real quick.
Will do.
Okay.
Jonathan, are you paying attention to the redistricting lines? Because there was a newspaper article at one point talking about Hanger not being in this area anymore, but I haven't done any research about that.
There's a new map that you can check out, and they haven't. We're just looking into it now. So
okay.
Can you send a link, Jonathan, to
Sure.
this group?
I sure can.
Thank you.
There has been some discussion that Emmett may retire.
Well, fortunately, we're pretty far along in the process. I don't want to be overconfident in anything. I understand all that, but fortunately, where we're at now, and not where we were just a couple of short years ago. So timing couldn't be better. All right. Anything else regarding the General Assembly or funding from the group? All right, moving on to point number 4, continue to work with design teams. This is a good time now that we have a kind of a roadmap and timeline going forward. We'll reinitiate the design teams and hold a couple of meetings here this winter, spring to provide some initial input that will go to our design firm that we contract with. So just keep your eyes open for that. I've worked informally with a number of members of these various teams offline over the last month or so. A lot of people have expressed a lot of interest in furthering the process. Of course, the fact that we didn't know what the funding scheme was, kind of put a damper on that, but now it's time to kind of hit that pretty good. If we go to bullet number 5, various activities, just so everyone knows, lecture series, I give the talk next, yes, a week from tonight, next Tuesday. Carol, I wish I had gone before you. I hate to have to follow yours up, but it's what I'm going to do. All right. So anyway, so I'll be giving that. We have 2 others upcoming. The newsletter has been fairly well received. We had a lot of people reach out to us, well, at least reach out to me after the newsletters are going out, kind of reconnecting. There's some people who had interest early on in the projects that we've done, whether it was master planning or capital campaign plan and so forth. They've reached back out. So it's having some effect in terms of developing a bit of buzz. So with the funding secured now, we're going to go ahead and we already have content for the next newsletter, which is due out in a couple of weeks, but we're going to change that now that we have confirmation of the funding.
Joe, what did that
Yes.
go out online only?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
via an email blast.
Okay, somehow I missed it. And is it on the website? Can I go back and look it up on the website?
I forget. Zach, did I give that to you for the Waynesboro website? And if I didn't, please tell me, because
Yeah, I'm not saying I didn't receive it. I was pretty overwhelmed with stuff before the holidays. And so, Mary Zell, would you mind resending that to me? I hate to ask you.
Yes, I can definitely work with
Because
you.
I know
I
you're
can
busy.
check in to make sure you're
Okay,
right.
thanks. Because I'd like to share that with some of the people that I'm thinking about for major
Okay,
donors.
absolutely. I'll touch base with you after the meeting about that.
Okay, great.
And let Mary Zell know if there are additional names. Well, you can't see the names on there. But
Right.
if there's someone that you think that should get it, let us know.
Yeah.
If they're already getting it, it's fine. But if they're not, it'd be great to add their contact. Hey, Greg, do we have any update on Riverfest?
Yeah, I just saw that on the agenda and asked. No.
Okay.
So the last I heard is they were still planning to have it. But I have no other updates. Than as soon as, if I get something while we're still in a meeting, I'll let you know.
For those of you who are new, Waynesboro Riverfest is quite impressive. Huge crowds come to it. It's all outdoors, big tent with displays. Waynesboro for years has been very kind to the museum and gave us front row center kind of billing with our displays and so forth. So we bring, kind of build a mini museum, so to speak, with specimens and artifacts and so forth, to talk about what we can bring to a campus in Waynesboro. So with the message that we can convey now, it'll be really exciting. So hopefully that is going to come through here. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was every April. So it'll be in a few months.
Yep. Last weekend of April or so.
Perfect. All right. And for part 5, bullet point D, it's the Board of Trustees and the General Assembly in February. I've already covered that. So that moves us on to open discussion. Is there anything in particular that somebody would like to cover or has a question about? Carol.
So this is good news. I've been contacted by several local folks who have extensive archaeological collections, and these are not the ones that I've talked about before, where there are folks in the area who are passing on and their families are trying to figure out what to do with them. This is something different altogether. And the question that has arisen, the first thing that they will ask is, would this be something that the new museum could take? And I imagine that knowing the Shenandoah Valley, there will be many requests like this, not just Native American artifacts, but geological specimens, you name it, it will probably come. And folks are wondering whether or not there is going to be collections or curation space, and if they can donate so that the materials would actually stay in the valley. I've explained that the museum's major curation facilities, of course, are in Martinsville, but these are folks who feel pretty strongly about things staying in this area. So I just wanted to mention that, and it may be something that the museum would want to think about the more public we become, because I have a feeling that these offers are going to show up more frequently. And it's possible that they could be fundraising opportunities, just
Right.
something to consider. So just wanted to throw that out there.
You bring up a good point that specimen donation is a really good donor cultivation possibility. So first of all, the short answer is yes. I've been accumulating collections of all kinds for the past decade in the anticipation of us needing materials appropriate for a branch campus in Waynesboro. So in fact, it was 2020, if I'm not mistaken, that Faye hooked us up with a specimen artifact donor. And I remember Hayden Bassett, our archaeologist, he was quite pleased to receive them. So as far as I'm staying in Waynesboro, we can initially, I'm sure, accommodate that request. You know, one, if it's something that was collected in that area, that would be much better to display than something that was, say, collected in the Virginia Piedmont, let's just say. So I love that idea. But the second thing too, in terms of providing some collection space, while the laboratory that we propose to build with the campus is primarily a laboratory and not a true collections holding facility, we had always planned all along to perhaps have a wall of cabinets that could provide space for local regional specimens and artifacts, as well as things that are being worked on by any visiting scientists or our own curators in real time. So we will have some limited capability, at least to start with. How quickly that fills up, hard to say. It also depends on the size. I mean, if someone's going to donate a mastodon, I'll take it, but I don't know how much space we'll have in the long term. So, but thank you for bringing that up. Incidentally, it was 1,000 square foot laboratory space, which is good size. But I don't have the document in front of me, but when General Services reviewed our proposal, if I'm not mistaken, they actually had made a suggestion to add to the laboratory space. They didn't give explanation, but it was something that seemed to just gel with them. So it was something like, and Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, if you can remember specific number, but it was maybe something like 12 or 1,300 square feet they wanted to dedicate to the laboratory space. Pardon me?
1,200.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. All right, good stuff. Anybody else?
It may be because they just went through a process with the Department of Historic Resources where they have expanded their collections facility. And it was a very protracted process with funding more than anything else, not so much space. The Virginia Historical Society gave DHR a significant amount of space, but then that had to be renovated. Just to give you an idea, you know, I have a new nonprofit, Mountain Valley Archaeology, and we have a space near Mount Crawford, which is sort of northwest of the area we're talking about today with Waynesboro. But what's really interesting is I've had 45 boxes donated to me just in the last week. So, I mean, these are I think it's going to be important just for members of the community for there to be some pretty clear guidelines about what can be accepted, because I'm not kidding you when I say I could potentially see thousands of boxes showing up.
All right. Well, I'm glad we have a new nonprofit collaborator in the region. So as these hundreds of boxes come flowing in, we will need all the help we can get.
Carol, you may regret saying that. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, the same is held true with the Augusta Historical Society. You know, they get a tremendous quantity of donations from local folks, as you say, as people are cleaning out their deceased parents' attics and such. You know, it's amazing what people come across. So I think that's a really good bit of advice to be prepared with some policies on that.
Yeah, we have a policy in place already. We'll just test that off and make sure it's appropriate, but maybe even make it regionally specific. Because the one we have now, it is not specific even to Virginia, because our general mission is to interpret the Commonwealth within a global context. So, but I think maybe for the branch campus, we might have a particular region defined or an approximate region defined. So we make a note of that.
Yeah, there are all those African animals on the wall.
Yep. They look good too. Okay. Anybody else have anything for open discussion?
I promise to have more next time, Joe. I just don't know enough yet.
Oh yeah, I know you're drinking from a fire hose, Mark. So but we appreciate you joining the committee, you and Tammy both. So and just to refresh memories, it's a standing meeting first Tuesday of each month at 1 p.m. We generally meet in Waynesboro. We've been doing a hybrid thing. We're trying to see if we can get. It's difficult, even though we do have some regional trustees participating, which is really good. So we try to make it so we can have a quorum on site, and then that way we can have a full meeting with voting and everything else that's needed. But we'll reach out. So, all right, as far as a quick action plan goes, I'm going to pull together some offline discussion about updating a donor list and so forth. I'm going to talk, well, actually, Faye and Greg are going to talk about a prospective staffer that we will specifically, we have to do this as an open, fair search to everyone, of course, but we want to make sure people that we might have interest in are encouraged to apply. So I'm going to take that off. Let me see. I'm going to put out the job description to the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee, and Mary Zell is going to re-forward the newsletters. I think that's where we stand right now. So in the meantime, Mark and Carol, I'll work with you and Tom, and we'll make sure that we have some discussion about assigning someone as appropriate to be chair of this committee. So I think we're good. Anybody have any parting shots? Or yeah, Jonathan.
Just a quick one. Still waiting on the agendas to come for the committees. And just if everybody can work as a team, if anybody hears, I mean, I consistently try to stay updated with the finance committee and their agendas, and when they're.
You're talking about with the General Assembly, right?
Yes,
Right.
yes. So with the General Assembly and any new appointments, or I was looking at new people in the mix now. So if anybody hears anything, Greg had a great question earlier about the maps. So just if we could all work as a team there and just feed information to each other, I think that'd be incredibly helpful for that meeting on the 15th.
Okay, sounds good. Maggie or Greg, when's the next CCR board meeting? Is that next week?
Will be, yeah. Oops, looks
Should
like
be the 18th.
18th, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll reach out. Well, of course, I'm going to reach out to the full board about the funding. I'll include the WAC on that. So if that, if one of you or Len or someone could forward that to the full CCR board, I think that would be a fine courtesy. So technically, since trustees are involved, are technically in charge of committee meetings and stuff, can I get a thumbs up from Carol or Mark that we're good to go? Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone for your time. Very much appreciate this. I'll be reaching out, and we'll continue discussion offline here. So thanks for everything, and very exciting time.
Sounds good.
Okay.